All right, Eddie, are you about ready? I think we can start.
Yes, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, perfect. All right, everyone, hello and welcome to this presentation. This is You Got Mail, your guide to email management, and it's being presented by PALS and Tech Tutors. So here we are. This is PALS and Tech Tutors. So what are we? PALS is Peer Advising Learning and Success, and I'm one of the PALS here on campus. Our mission is to support all students striving for academic success. PALS can help do this in a variety of ways on campus. We help students create specific goals and a realistic plan to achieve them, so step-by-step processes. We help them navigate the university's website and available tools, so anything from like registration students are struggling with, or even just how to schedule an appointment with an advisor. These are things we have tackled. And we help them explore study skills, test-taking strategies, time management techniques, and much, much more. So we are the kind of the go-to all for study skills strategies with students. We do this in kind of two ways. We host one-on-one academic coaching appointments with students throughout the semester. And we host events like this, so workshops where we can engage with anyone from the U of M community and help share some of our knowledge and expertise. And Eddie here is representing Tech Tutors.
Yes, so I'm Eddie Mayorga. I'm one of the Tech Tutors here at UM Dearborn. And our mission is to assist students, faculty, and staff with software programs to incorporate technology into their learning, teaching, and research. So us as Tech Tutors can help you with any Microsoft programs such as Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, or any Google Suites programs like Google Sheets or Google Docs, Adobe programs like Adobe SoundCloud or Adobe, well, any Adobe programs, and many others like Canva or R or J, stuff like that. So many programs. And if you don't know any, if you come with us with questions about a program that we're not too familiar with, we'll take the time to learn about it. That way we can help you out.
So at any point in this presentation, I just want to start off, if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute and speak them aloud or throw them in the chat. This is not like a super formal lecture. We're not in class here. So feel free to ask us any questions you have and make sure, we'll make sure to respond to them as soon as we
can. So Talent Gateway is a program that's part of Experience Plus. And what they do is that it's kind of like a course where there's various challenges that you can do, or they host events like part of this cover letter, like this workshop where Talent Gateway is part of it. So what Talent Gateway is that it's kind of a course where it gives you challenges that you can do to earn points. For example, a challenge that invites you to learn about your skills, or to go out and get to know other people. And the more challenges you do, the more points you accumulate. And the more points that you accumulate, the more you can earn rewards like a Talent Gateway pen, or like a card holder, or if you reach to 50,000 points, you get this emblem that you get to wear on graduation day. But 50,000 points may seem like a lot of points, but you do get a decent amount of points per challenges that you do. For example, one of the challenges is to attend a Talent Gateway event. So for example, if you were to attend this workshop, or for example, the upcoming events that are coming up, like the Cover Letter Workshop on the February 22nd, or the Spring Career Fair in March 10th, like if you were to attend those events, then you fill out this form, or you like complete the challenge and you get points for it. And it's not only that, it can help you out with, they offer mentors or mentoring sessions. They help you with your resume. So they look over your resume, so they can help you out with interviews. They offer mock interviews where, you pretend to be in an interview and they can give you hints about what you can do to improve, or give you little tips. And it's just a great program that just helps you with your education and makes it just a little bit easier.
All right, but today we're here to talk about the importance of email management. And so we're going to be sharing why this is important and some strategies you can use to actually help you manage your inbox. So why is email management important? Well, since the development of email just a few decades ago, it has been an increasingly popular form of communication. This is in the workplace, this is personal, it is even replacing phones in some instances. And then, of course, 2 years ago in winter 2022, or 2020 rather, we had the pandemic happen, which has pushed email even more into the lives of everyday lives of people. And so a lot of more people are using it for day-to-day communications, may it be work or personal. And it can be a bit overwhelming now that we're using it so much. So email management is important because we are using it so much in our day-to-day lives. And because of that, we're hoping to share some tips and tricks to help you kind of get over that hump and some of the frustrations you may be experiencing because of the amount of emails you're receiving each day. So what is email overload? Email overload is sometimes referred to as email fatigue. It's something we've heard a lot in the news lately. We hear it be referred to in either way. It is the inability to stay on top of your email inbox. I know sometimes I get upwards of 100 emails in my inbox every day. And for many people, that's even a greater number. So it can be very frustrating to get that many emails and try to sort through them all in one day. So this is what we're going to try to address in today's topic, is how to address this so you can actually stay on top of your inbox without feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. So like I said, it's getting over that influx of emails, and it is ultimately the shift to remote working and learning has led to an influx of emails. And in turn, this increase in emails has led to workers and students feeling overwhelmed or even burnt out. But you're not alone. So 2021, Forbes did a survey, and it was about email overload and email influxes, fatigue. This is about a year after the pandemic took place, and many places were still working online full time. We know U of M here, classes are still mostly remote, so it's still a big deal. And they found in this survey that 89% of office workers were overwhelmed when sorting through their inbox every day. So they would get to work, open their email, and it was just absolutely exhausting. They had so much to look through, may it be from different teams at their workplace or outside sources. They were simply getting so much. They were all having these feelings of overwhelm. 38% of these people also said that email fatigue will push them to quit their jobs. So it wasn't just a normal influx of emails, maybe it's a little heavier this time of year. It became so constant that people were like, it's too much, I'm too stressed, I need to leave and find a new job because I cannot handle the volume of emails I am receiving each day. So if you're feeling like this, that's okay. You're not alone. I know sometimes I just want to close my computer and crawl back into bed. But we're going to address this today and work out some useful strategies we can use to help eliminate this issue. Also interesting in this survey, they found that 50% of workers spent their own money on tools to help manage their inbox. And another 17% of those workers say that in the future, they plan to spend their own money. So we are not, this is not a promotional thing by any means. No one's hired us to come promote their company or software for you guys to hire. But we're going to show you some tips and tricks you can use just with like your normal Gmail that you get from the university. So we're going to help you make the most, and that's where Text Tutor's expertise come in. Make the most out of your Gmail account in the G Suite, so you don't have to spend your own money to actually manage your inbox. So what can you do? This is where we get into some of the actual strategies. You can utilize some or all of the following effective email strategies. There's something called the 4Ds approach that we're going to talk about today. You can develop an email strategy, and you can use some of the many free tools within G Suite. These are things like priority emails, scheduling emails, using the snooze email button, unsubscribe and blocking, signatures, filters, labels, and much more. So we are really focusing today on the G Suites and how you can use the free tools within your account to help you get over email fatigue. So let's get into those effective email strategies. So earlier I talked about the 4Ds approach. So now I'm going to go into a little more detail about that. The 4Ds approach is very simple. It's do it, delegate it, defer it, or delete it. And what this is saying is that whenever you get an email in your inbox, the first thing you're going to do one of these four. So do it refers to immediately respond to and or complete the task. So maybe you get an email from someone saying, hey, can you send me the PDF of that presentation you gave the other day? Immediately just do it. Go to the presentation, make a PDF, attach it to the email and send. The next option is delegate it. This refers to assigning the task to a teammate, a peer, or forwarding it to the proper recipient. So delegating it is getting it off your plate into either the correct hands or whoever's supposed to actually be doing it. Maybe someone on your team or someone in a different department altogether. Just making sure that's not in your inbox anymore so you don't have to worry about it. The next option is defer it. This is making a note that you need to review this email later. There's various systems you can create to do this. Some of them we're going to talk about in this presentation later today. So you can maybe, I don't know, write a sticky note, put it on your computer. That's like a paper and pencil, old-fashioned version. Or you can use some of the tools in your G Suite, such as flagging it, snoozing the email for later so it pops back up in your inbox, or marking it as unread. There's many different ways you can kind of make your own system of how you want to defer an email for later. Lastly, you can delete it. I don't know about you guys, but I get a ton of junk mail. It's like, I don't know how all these places get my email, but clearly I'm giving it out or something. If you don't need an email, delete it. Don't let it waste your time and space in your inbox for something you're going to look over later. If you don't need it, simply delete it. And if it's like a newsletter or something, maybe go in and unsubscribe first so you don't get those in the future as well. That is another feature we'll be talking about today. So the 4 Ds was kind of one management strategy that you can use to help really balance the influx of emails you may be receiving. Another one that research shows is really effective is developing an email schedule. So research shows that people who check their emails just a few times a day are far less stressed than those who constantly monitor their inbox all day. So those who constantly maybe have it on a tab open and they're looking every few minutes, did I get an email? Oh, I saw a little ding pop up. So the average professional spends 28% of the workday reading and responding to emails. This is a lot of time. It's a fourth of our day for many of us, just being on the email and responding it. And so instead of just constantly flipping between our tabs, checking our email, they recommend make a schedule. Maybe check it 3 or 4 times a day. And so you should create time blocks that should maybe be 15 to 30 minutes long. This, of course, is depending on what your average email influx is. Some people get like 20 emails a day. Some people get 200. Obviously, if you're getting more, you're going to need more time to deal with them. But you should be creating some time blocks, maybe like 3 or 4 a day that are 15 to 30 minutes long when you're going to check your email. In the typical 9 to 5 day or 8 to 5 day, that may be checking it right when you get at 8 a.m., maybe right after your lunch box around, your lunch break right around noon, and then about an hour before you get ready to leave for the day, so at 4 p.m. I'm working in a school district this semester. I'm a student teacher, and so our school day starts at 7:10. So I get into work and I check my email right at 7. And then I check it after 4th hour, which is when I have my lunch break. I'm a C lunch student. And then I check it when school gets out at the end of the day at 2:10. So I have an email schedule that I use, and I find that has really helped me cut down on the frustration of constantly having to check between every hour and every period to see if there's a new development that I need to know about. So just creating that blocks that you know this is when I'm gonna actually check my email can help reduce that stress because you're like, I don't have to be constantly watching it. I have my times, I'll check it when it's time. I believe now Eddie's going to talk about some of the different Gmail suites features that you can use to help you manage your email as well.
Yep, I'm going to talk about just the different techniques that you can use. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I'm going to be walking through these steps, but in the chat, there is a link to like this presentation and these slides, for example. You can keep following along the steps with me. And so Kristen will she put the Google, the link in the chat so you can follow along. So I'm going to, Kristen, do you mind allowing me to share my screen for a second?
Yep, sorry, I didn't realize it had disabled you.
You're okay.
All right, give it a try now.
All right, perfect. So the first thing we're going to talk about is priority email. So this is one thing that you can do in order to, it's one of the techniques that you can do to not have so much email overload. So a priority email is basically it's how your inbox appears. So all of these inbox right now, I have it as default, like in my settings, it says default, where it just, as soon as an email is sent, it's going to appear. It doesn't really matter what order, if it's important or not. Important means that, there's that little check right there. That means it's important. So what priority email does, it allows you to customize it however you want. For example, you can have important show up first, or then start show up next. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So the first thing you want to do in order to make this happen is you want to go to the settings tab, and then you just go to see all settings. And then there's this inbox button. So you go ahead and click on this inbox, and it's the first option that we get. So it's called inbox type. And like I said, I have it as default. And if you click on this down arrow, it's going to give you all these different options that you can use. So for example, important first means that all the important emails that you get, or all the emails that are marked as important, will show up first. Or there's the unread, starred, or multiple inboxes, which means that you can have various inboxes at once. Well, I'm going to go with priority inbox. So then this inbox section appears. And what this means is how you want it to customize it. So for example, number one means that this is the first thing that's going to appear in your inbox. So right now I have it as important and unread, but if I want to change it, you can just click on that options button, and it's going to give you various options that you can choose. So for example, if I wanted the start to be first, then I'm going to click on start, and every email that has a star in it, it's going to appear first. But I do have to change the start because, so if I have start as first, I'm going to have this as important and unread. But I'm going to switch them out. I want my important ones to be first and then my start. And along these options, right here where it says show up to 5 items, 10 items, 25 items, it means that 25 emails that are important are going to show up. Or if I want it to be less, if I only wanted like the top 5 or like the first 5 emails are important to show up, then I'm going to click on that 5 items button. So that's kind of how you can customize it. But I'm just going to leave it as 25. And then I'm just going to leave it how it is because I like this order. So I'm going to go important unread first, start second, unread third, and then everything else is last. The most important thing about this is that you have to scroll all the way down and click on save changes. These are various different settings that you can use, like inbox unread account, like it's pretty much just how you want your inbox. And so unread items inbox, it tells you like how many inbox or how many unread emails you have in your inbox and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to click on save changes. This is the most important thing to do, is click on save changes, because if you just go back to your inbox without doing anything, then it's just going to not do anything. But here, like if you forget to click on save changes, it's going to prompt you to save. So it's going to give you this notification. But I'm just going to click on save changes. It's going to take a little bit. And then it's going to change my whole inbox. So you see how it was before. It was just all random. It was just how, like if an email came, it's just going to be first and the second and so on and so forth. But now it's divided into different categories or sections. So how I have it is I have important first. So any important email that's sent to me is going to show up first, and then start, and then unread, and then everything else. And if you look, their sections are labeled. So important and unread, start, and then unread, or everything else. And then unread was up here. Now, if you want to hide these, like if you have so much going on that you just like, well, I want to look at my start first, and you just click on that, and it's going to hide all of the important ones. And then you can just go ahead and look at the start, and same thing for unread and everything else. So that's a really cool thing that Gmail has. So that's one way, that's really cool. So I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to go back to my default. because that's how I personally like it. But if I liked it like this, I would have just left it. But I'm just going to go back to my default. I'm going to click on save changes. And it went back to exactly how it was. Next up, we're going to talk about scheduling an email send. So what this means is if you're wanting to send an email at a certain time or a certain date, you can schedule it to send it at that day. So for example, if I wanted to send an email next Monday at 2 p.m., instead of right now, I can schedule that email to send next Monday at 2 p.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to compose first, just like how we always start like an email. I'm going to hit compose. I'm just going to send an email to myself with the subject of test. Now, how we would normally do it is we'll just hit the send button and it's going to send, right? But instead, we're going to click on that little arrow next to send. It's going to give you options. And then there's this option called schedule send. So you want to go ahead and click on that. And now here it gives you the options of when the email, like when you want the email to be sent. It'd be tomorrow morning at 8 or tomorrow afternoon at 1 or Monday morning, like the next Monday at 8 a.m. But I said I wanted it to be next Monday at 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and customize it by clicking this pick date and time option. And now I'm going to go to the 28th, which is next Monday at 2 p.m. I'm going to hit on schedule send. Now you're going to get a little confirmation here at the bottom left corner. And it's going to tell you like the email was scheduled for Monday, February 20th at 2 p.m. And if you noticed, whenever I hit on scheduled send, there's this label that appeared, and we'll talk about labels here in a second. But it appeared as scheduled, and there's a 1 next to it, which means that there's a scheduled emailed like in the system. So you want to go ahead and click on that. And now here you can look at it and you say like, oh, I messed up. I need to edit this, or I want to make a change, or anything really. You just hover over it with your mouse, and then you click on it, and then there's going to be a cancel send option. So you go ahead and click on that cancel send, and it's going to take you right back to that composed. And instead of test, I was like, oh, I was supposed to put cake in there. And so now you can edit it, and you're just going to follow those same steps. You're going to go to that arrow button, scheduled send, pick a date and time, and you're like, oh, well, I messed up. It was supposed to be at 2 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. right? So now you can just edit it however you want. And you just go ahead and click scheduled send, and it's gonna do the same thing. It edited, and now here on your right, it tells you the exact date. So it's gonna be scheduled for February 28th. And if you just want to delete this email, like, oh, you know what, I'll send it next Monday, like on my own, then you just can click on that delete option, that little trash can, and it's going to delete it. And now you see that scheduled label on the left, it just disappeared because we don't have any scheduled emails to send. So that's really cool. That's another option. The third thing that we can do to kind of clean this up is to unsubscribe and block from emails. So if I don't want to receive any more emails from a certain person or from a certain company, I can either unsubscribe them or like from them. Like if it's like, for example, JCPenney, like keep sending me emails every single day. And like, oh, I just want to unsubscribe or I just want to block them, then you can. Like, for example, I'm going to scroll down and find one. Like here, Kenneth Bell. So I keep receiving emails from him. And I'm saying like, oh, like I don't want Kenneth to send me any more emails. So to unsubscribe, so you can click this little 3 buttons, but you kind of have to be careful because on some emails, and I'm not sure why they do it, on some emails you can unsubscribe right from like these options, like these 3 little dots. You click on that and it says more. You can unsubscribe. There's going to be like an option that says unsubscribe, but for some emails, they don't do that. Some emails you have to go all the way to the bottom and there's going to be a link. I can, for example, Canva, right? I don't want to receive any more emails from Canva. So it doesn't have any unsubscribed. Sometimes they put it on their emails itself. So if we scroll all the way to the bottom, you like sometimes they have manage email preferences, but for this one, for some reason they put it up here next to the web address for some reason. So you can just go ahead and click that and then it unsubscribe. To block them, block will always be at the same place every single time. So you want to hit this little 3 dots again, and there's a block Canva. So it's going to block this email address. So I will never receive any emails from this person ever again. So I'm going to hit on block and I'm going to confirm it. And now it gives you the option to unblock sender. Like if you were to make an error, like, oh, like this is the wrong web address. I was supposed to block something else, or I was supposed to block a different person. Then you can just quickly unblock sender, and it's going to unblock it. Or what you can do if this option doesn't give it to you, like if this for some reason, you don't get this option or you don't get this notification, you can just go up to settings, see all settings, and you want to go to filters and blocked addresses. Now see, I have these two emails I have blocked. So I will never receive an email from Palmer or from, oh wait, sorry, these are filters. I'll talk about it in a minute. Sorry. We're gonna go down here where it says Canva, and this is where you see the blocked. I'm gonna talk about this here in a second. I was getting ahead of myself. But if you want to unblock, you can just quickly hit on unblock, or if you have various, like here, you can just select all, and it's gonna select them all. But I want to unblock from Canva, so I'm just gonna hit unblock, and now it's gonna appear back into your inbox, and you're gonna continue to receive emails from that person. So that's kind of how you block and unsubscribe from emails. So that really comes in handy whenever you're getting emails like left and right from a single person that you just don't want to receive emails from, and just block them or unsubscribe. The next thing we're going to talk about is adding signatures. So a signature is kind of, well, it's self-explanatory. Signature that you put like at the bottom of the page, or when you're signing something, you usually sign it at the bottom. But a signature in an email is really cool. So you want to go to compose, you're going to start an email. To me, this is the easiest way. There's 2 ways, and I'll show you the second way. You want to go to compose, you're going to start an email. So like when I'm going to send one to myself again. Now, what a signature is the thing that you always end with, like it's your ending. So for example, we have like letters here, like you have your text, and all the way at the bottom, I always end with like best regards. Whoops, sorry. That's how I always end my emails, or if it's like professional email, I will put my full name. But that's how I would always finish my emails. So what's cool about it is that instead of having to write this every single time, you can save it as a signature. And so how you do that is that there's this little pen option down at the bottom, and it's going to tell you to insert signature. Now, I already have a signature here, which is this. So if I were to click on signature or insert signature and hit on closing, it's going to appear as best regards my name, like I talked about. But say if I wanted to change it, or say if I wanted to add a different one, I can click on that insert signature. I'm going to go to manage signature or signatures, and it's going to take you to the settings. Now the signatures here in the settings are all the way down, and it's going to say signatures right here, signatures. So for example, here I already have 2 signatures, but let's pretend that I don't have any at the moment, right? So you're going to have like this little option that says create new signature. So you just want to click on create, and you're going to give it a title. So like, for example, my title for that last one was closing, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and create it. And here is where you type in your signature or what you want to say at the end of your email. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my closing. And what's cool about this is that you can kind of edit however you want it. Like you can bold it, or you can underline it. You can customize it however you want. You can add a picture. Like for example, if you're part of a company, or if you're part of an organization and you want to put the logo as your signature, or you want to put the logo underneath it, you can. That's by just simply clicking on this insert image option. You can have bullet points. You can put a link, like if you want to leave a link to your website, like your LinkedIn, like if you're sending an email to like your boss, or if you're like a professional email, you just want to put like your LinkedIn link in here, you can do that as well. But you can customize it anyway, and when you're done, you're done. So that's all I wanted to say. It's best regards, Eddie. So just like the inbox, just like the priority inbox, the most important thing to do is to go down and click on save changes. Because if I don't click on save changes, it's like I didn't even create like a signature. So I have to click on save changes and it's saved. Now back to this. So I already saved my signature, right? So I just click on insert signature and I just hit on close. It's got it. I have to do it again because so what I'm doing is, the reason I have to do it again is because, so this is technically part of the last one, like before I added anything. So I'm just going to click on insert signature and closing, and there you go. There's your signature. Now, if you want to add more, you can just do the same thing. Manage signatures, go all the way down. And what's cool is you can have various different signatures. So here you just like, have a good day. And then save changes. So now I technically have, two signatures now that I can use, like whenever I'm forwarding an email or whenever I'm sending an email. So that's kind of it for signatures. The other way to do it is just by simply going to settings, see all settings, and it's the same thing. You go down, you click on signatures, and then here you can edit. So I forgot to put my last name, right? So I'm just gonna edit it now. Tess, have a good day. I forgot to put a period, or I forgot to put an exclamation point, and then always hit on that save changes option. Because if you don't, then it's like nothing ever happened. The next thing we're going to talk about is filters. So what filters is going to filter these emails to have like a certain email or a certain person show up in a certain way. For example, if I wanted for example, from this person, anytime he sends me something, I want it to be starred, or I want it to appear like this or appear like that. So we're going to filter it. So what you want to do, the easiest way to do it is just go up to the search bar, and there's these 3 little lines. Now this is where you kind of start to get creative. This is where you can customize it any way you want. So for example, I want to filter out the emails from a person called Josh Palmer. And so if I wanted to see the emails exactly from Josh Palmer, I can just click on search, and that's kind of how you search an email. Here too, it means like I want to see the emails that Josh Palmer sent to my colleague, right, which is Sakun Patel. And then you can add more people to it, like this person, or you can add as many people as you want. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it blank because I just want to see all the emails that Palmer has sent to me. Right, subject is the subject that, if I want to only see the emails that Josh sent to me about tech tutors, or with the subject tech tutor, then it's going to appear, or has the words word in it, right? If Josh were to send me a specific email regarding like Word, then it's going to appear. It doesn't have the word Excel in it because I just want it to be Word. Let's actually size. We don't really have to worry about size because we're not really sending out emails like that are way too big or anything like that. So we really don't have to worry about like the size. The date is like, I just want to see the emails that Josh sent me like a day before or 3 days, like for the past 3 days or the past week. I'm going to leave it at 1 day, and I'm going to search all mail, or it's going to search the inbox or the start or the sent mail, but I'm just going to search for all mail. I'm gonna leave this blank. Now, if I were just to search it, then it's gonna appear like Josh Palmer sent me all of these emails. But what I want to do is I actually just want to create a filter. That way, anytime that this person, Josh Palmer, sends me an email, it's going to appear in a certain way. So the same thing, you go up there to those little 3 lines, and I'm going to create on create filter. Now, when you click on that, all these options are going to appear. So I'm just going to talk about them. So the skip inbox means that anytime that Josh sends me an email, if I were to click on it, or if I were to select it, it's going to directly skip my inbox. It's not even going to appear in my inbox at all. It's going to archive it. But I don't want that. Like, I want to see his emails, right? Or I can mark it as read, which is like, it's going to appear as I read it, even though I didn't, it's going to appear as I read it. I'm going to start it. So anytime that Josh sends me an email, it's going to appear as a star. Apply the label, which I will talk about here in a second. I'm going to delete it, which means it's like, I'm not even going to get it, right? Because it's just going to delete it like right away. Forward it is like, if Josh were to send me an email and I didn't want to come directly to me, I wanted to go to a different person. Like if I were to told like, hey, don't send me emails anymore, send it to this person, and he forgot and he's still sending me emails, I can just filter it. Like, instead of just telling him about it, I can just filter it. That way, like if whenever he sends it to me, it goes to that person as well. Never send it to spam. So any email that Josh sends me will never go to spam. Always mark as important. So anytime that he sends me an email, it's going to appear as an important email, or it will never mark as important. It's never going to mark as important. Categorize it. It means that, so categories are something that you can set up for primary, social, or updates, or certain categories that it labels that email as. To me, the most important option in all of these, different options that you get, is this last one, also apply filter to matching conversations. So what this means is that any filter that create, like for example, I'm going to create like this filter where anything that Josh has sent me or Josh will send me in the future is going to appear like as a star, right? It's going to start it. If I were to not click on this, it's not going to do it to every email that's already in my inbox. So any email that Josh has sent me, it will not appear start because I did not click on this. So what this means is that it's going to apply this filter of starting it. Or for example, if I were to have it start and mark this important, or always mark this important as well, if I were to not click on this, it means that it's not going to apply this filter to the emails I already have. It's only going to apply this filter to the future emails that he was going to send me. So that's kind of like up to you, but I always like it too. I always like this option because it's going to apply this filter to any any or every email that Josh sent me. Even if you send it to me like 3 weeks ago, it's still going to mark it as important, or it's going to put a star next to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and create filter, and it's going to take a little bit, but here, like, it's going to get a notification that the filter was created. So it's filtered. So any emails that Josh sends me, like if he were to send me an email this afternoon, it's going to appear as important, and it's also going to have a star next to it. Or since I clicked on that option that said apply, matching conversations, if I were to search his name, they're all going to have a star and an important next to it. Every single email that Josh sent me, so for example, this one, is not because it's from, like, it's me, like I created this, and Josh didn't create it, I created it, but it had like the word Josh in it. So it applied the filter to it for some reason, but it's not from him. But you see all these emails that Josh sent me are starred and are as important. So that's kind of what filter does. If I wanted to edit this filter, or if I wanted to create a filter from scratch again, you can go to settings, see all settings, and filter and blocked addresses. Now these are filters that I already created, like from job alerts from LinkedIn, or from another one from Josh as well. Like this is the one that we created. So when it says do this, that's kind of what the filter is doing. So for example, I already had one created for Josh that said, skip the inbox, and never send it to spam. And so the one that we just created is this one, and this is what it does. It starts it and it marks it as important. So here you can edit it. Like, oh, I meant to put Sakun in there or something like that. Then you can edit it, but you have to click on continue, and it takes you right back to where you started. Or if you just want to delete it, or like, oh, like this one, I didn't even know why I created it, so I'm just going to delete it. Or this one, I don't even know why I created this. I didn't even ask it to do anything, so I'm going to delete it. And if you were wanting to create a new one, you can just create a new filter from this option right here, and it's going to take you right from the beginning. So that's kind of what filters are. And the last thing I want to talk about is creating labels. So labels are kind of these things on the left side. It's kind of like a separate folder to where, like if you want a certain email to go to a certain folder, then it's going to go to the folder which I'll create, which you'll see in a second. And so one way to do it is just to me, the easiest way to do it is by clicking on this email directly. So there's two types of labels, and I'll show you. But to me, this is the coolest kind of label. This is like the best one for me. So for example, I'm going to create a label for LinkedIn job alerts, right? So I can create a label straight from here, and it's you have to first click on that email. So I'm going to click on this email, and it already has like the web address, right? So I don't have to copy it or anything. I'm going to go to these three little dots on your right, and I'm going to click on filter messages like this. So I'm going to create it. Now it's going to take me like I'm creating a filter, but I'm not going to create a filter. I'm going to create a label, and you see it's already giving me all of these emails. Like here on the background, it's already selected all the emails with the same web address. So here you can check, like here you can see if you did it right or not, or if you got the right web address, because it's going to tell you like all these emails I'm going to create a label for all of these emails and so many more, right? Because I don't really read them anymore. Whoops, I can exit it out. So I'm going to start. Sorry, I messed up. What was I doing? All right. So filter messages like these. I'm going to go to create filter, and I'm going to click on this apply the label option. So this is what I was talking about like before, where I'm going to create this label. Now, I have not created a label yet. So what's cool is you can create a label right from here. And here you can also, start it. You can create that filter as well. Like I'll start it, or I'll always mark it as important. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to skip the inbox. But what I am going to do is I'm going to apply filter to matching conversation. So I'm going to apply this to every single email that I will get or that I have already gotten from this web address, from job alerts from LinkedIn. So because I have not created a label, I can just create one right here. And this is the title for your label. So I'm just going to click on job. I'm just going to label it job alerts, right? Because I want to know, like I want to create a separate folder, like just for these job alerts that I'm getting, for these opportunities that I can get, right? So I'm going to create it. Now, see on the left side, it created this label, it created this folder called job alerts. And this is the folder that all of these emails are going to go to. Now, the reason why I didn't skip the inbox is because I wanted to also appear in my inbox. So if I were to click this option, the ones that are in my inbox would disappear and would go directly to this folder. But for right now, I'm just going to click on skip the inbox because I still want it to appear in my inbox. So I'm going to create the filter, right? I have apply the label selected. I also want it as important. But since it's going to a separate folder, I'm just going to take that out. But you can have that option if you want. And I always make sure to have this last one selected. I'll also apply filter to matching conversation. So I'm going to create filter. It's going to take a little bit. And when it's done, when the filter is created, it's going to take you back to the inbox. So just give it a second. It usually takes a bit. Unless I did it wrong. Okay, so it created it. Now you see it took me, because I did it directly from this email, it took me back to the inbox, to this email. Now, if you looked on this folder, it tells you how many emails I have, which is a lot of emails. It's 527 emails straight from LinkedIn, but it still appears in my inbox. Like this is the one, like, for example, LinkedIn job alerts are still appearing in my inbox. But if you notice, the only difference is that there's an option now called job alerts. There's this little tab that's telling you like, hey, like it's in your inbox, but it's also in this filter right here. It's also in this label. And now if I go to job alerts, it's going to give me just the emails from LinkedIn job alerts. And any future ones that I receive are going to go directly to this folder as well, to this label. For me, the coolest thing about it is if you want to make this important, like if you just like, I gotta like, anytime that this email is sent to me, I need to know that like it's from LinkedIn, or I need to know that it's in my inbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this like 3 little dots, which is like the options. I can like hide it, or like I can hide the folder if I want. I can edit it, or I can remove it, or add a sublabel. A sublabel is like a folder between a folder, like a subfolder. But I'm gonna change the color because I want it to be marked like a certain way. So I'm gonna mark it as blue because LinkedIn's logo is blue. Now, if you see, not only did the folder color change, but also like these little tabs changed color as well. So now when I go to my inbox, like for example, if I'm now appearing in my inbox for the first time, anything that is blue, I know it's directly from LinkedIn. So I can like, oh, I got this LinkedIn job alert, so I can go strictly from here, or I can look at it in there. Now, another option that you do is to do the same thing. So I'm going to create a label, but instead I'm going to create it right here, like we did with filters. I'm going to create a label from a person called Zoe Mink, for example, and I'm going to create a filter. And the reason why I'm creating the label from this person is because this is a person, for example, this is my tutor, or this is a person that's helping me with a certain class. And I wanted to always like, I want to know where exactly these emails are. Instead of going into my inbox and trying to find her email, I know exactly where it is, or I know exactly the messages. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to apply the label, but because I haven't created one from her, I can do the same thing, like new label. I'm going to create it, tutor, for example. So I'm going to create it. And now it created right here, that tutor. But this time I'm going to select that skip inbox option. And now what this means is that it's going to skip the inbox and it's go directly to the tutor option. Like it's not going to appear in my inbox at all. Like if I want to see emails like only from her, I have to go to that folder. Now, if you look down at the last option, it says apply filter to 18 matching conversations. And this is what I was talking about. The reason why the job alerts one didn't tell me the numbers because it was just so big of a number, right? It's 527 emails. But because this is like a certainly like fairly small number, it's going to tell you how many emails I have received from her and how many emails are going to go into that folder. So I'm going to create a filter. So I'm going to go ahead and create it. It's going to take a little bit, right? We can just have to wait. Unless I did it wrong, which I don't think I did. There we go. So it says your filter was created. Now you see the Zoe, there was like an email from her, but it disappeared because it went directly to my tutor inbox. So now here, this is my tutor, and now I know exactly where her emails will be and exactly like where I need to go look. Now, if I wanted to like appear in my inbox as well, I can just go to edit. So no, not like that. Sorry. To edit like a label, like if I was like, oh wait, I do want it to appear in my inbox. You go to settings, all settings, filters and blocked addresses. Oh, sorry, no, you go to labels, and you see there's the tutor option right here. Now here I can just like edit it here. I can remove it. Like, oh, I didn't want the job alerts one, so I just want to remove it. But I'm going to edit this one, right? Like, oh, I'm going to tutor notes or something like that. So I'm going to edit it. So that's kind of it. Those are like those are some of the techniques that I like to use to kind of make, you know, email overload like a little bit simpler. And so, yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions like regarding this, you can ask me about it. I know I think I kind of went too fast because I was trying not to go over. So if you have any questions, I can answer them. Or if I missed, like if I didn't explain something good enough, then you can ask me about it.
Oh yeah, and if you have other questions too, in that link we sent out with the slides, they have like step-by-step directions for each one of the many topics that Eddie covered. So now I'm gonna quickly go back over to the presentation. And so here, like I was talking about the slides we sent out, they do have like directions for all the different tools that Eddie was talking about today. But next up, we are kind of reaching the end of our presentation today. And so there is a short survey that we would like all of you to take. You can scan the QR code on your screen or follow the link that I just threw in the chat. So your guys' opinions matter. We love hosting events like this, but we need feedback so that we can better plan for future events so they meet your guys' needs better. So if you guys could please complete that survey, and then if you have any questions, both Eddie and I are here to answer them about anything you guys heard in the presentation today. You are welcome, Britta. Thank you so much for coming.
Great job, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know there was definitely a lot of information covered. So if you guys do have questions about filters or labels or any of that, I know I use labels a lot. Anything that comes from my PALS account, it goes right into a label called PALS. And so I only open those emails for when I work. So there's lots of possible questions I know. Oh, you're welcome. Alrighty, I'm going to assume most people scanned into the survey if they are going to. So here's just a reminder about tech tutors. You can drop in. They have office hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at various times. And they can help you with G Suite, Office, Adobe Creative Cloud, and so much.
If you have any questions, you can send us like your question on that email down at the bottom left-hand corner with your questions. That way we kind of know what you need. And yeah, and there's in the chat there is a link to that to the Talent Gateway web address. If you want to know more about Talent Gateway, that you can just go ahead and click on that link, and it's gonna give you more descriptive explanation about what it is and what it can do for you. So.
And if you guys want to learn more about PALS or suggest it for your students, or if you are a student, if you want to schedule an academic coaching appointment, you can please do so. Our website page is ufmdearborn.edu/PALS, P-A-L-S. We also have an upcoming event coming just later this week on Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. It's basically a study skills about midterms coming up. It's that time of year again, midterms, and one of our PALS, Mirage, will be hosting that. And if you guys ever have any questions that are PALS related, please shoot us an email. That's umdearborn-pals@umich.edu. So we are always available for coaching appointments, or just if you guys have questions about anything. And thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
think I'm gonna end the recording.